Hey you, so glad to see everybody back. Hoping everybody had a fantastic Christmas and gonna have a great new year. So jumping straight into my first video of the new year. Gonna title this one Silver Tongue Lies, and it's just going to be a couple of bent truths that I've come to find out since I've been stacking silver. So it's great to start with a silver video. And just on how I see it now, and maybe on the things I'm going to mention are things that I absolutely believed in when I first started picking up silver. And maybe individuals may want to stop and pause and take these things on board. Once again, I'm not bashing silver, I'm still full silver. As to why I have this big pot of silver out, just showing that I am still heavily invested in it. Some of the collector pieces I've got here. Silver tongue lies, just like a silver tongued individual, are things you may hear people say when they're describing silver in a positive way for why you should pick it up. I recently spoke with somebody on Instagram and they was mentioning a couple of these things to me as to why they wanted to put a large amount of savings into silver over gold. Now, I recommended once upon a time, as we move along, as we all do, my ratios have changed from once upon a time, I would have said easily 80 to 90% silver, 10% gold or anything like that. Whereas now I'm as low as easily 50-50. If anybody's asking my own personal advice or opinion when I'm contacting, I say 50-50. I say go half-half. If anything, you may want to go a little harder gold. That's just me, From my very first video, or from the very first time I picked up silver, that wasn't my mindset, but this is where I am now. So some of the silver tongued lies, I've done lots of videos on this, but I'll just title this one as is. They can be very clever and persuasive and perversive and when they mention certain things, but it's not exactly true. So I'll get on to the first one, silver tongue lie that could be said, and that's going to be the gold to silver ratio is often used in silver's favor, especially now. Well, the prices ain't so low as they recently was, but you may come across someone that will be saying right now silver is the better buy. Why? Because the gold to silver ratio favors silver, and they'll say for every ounce of gold you can get, at the time of releasing this video, I'd say the gold to silver ratio is 80, just a little over, I believe. They would say you could get, for 1 ounce of gold, you get 80 ounces of silver. And that's better because come time to convert, or when we get a price correction, it's going to go back down into silver's favor. So that could drop to 30 and then you've made 3 ounces of silver, or always end up going back into gold or something like that. Now, why I call this a silver tongue lie is because from my own personal experience, the gold to silver ratio does not apply to the average Joe, and that's going to be me and you, the average stacker even. I think it's being used in a misleading context. Whenever you hear an individual say, favor silver right now because you can, you can't. And that's the problem there. That leaves the individual thinking that they could take, I don't know, a 1 ounce gold eagle and then go to their local dealer or wherever they think they're going to get this exact ratio and say, Joe Blow just told me for every ounce of gold I can get 80 ounces of silver. Let's put it to the test. Now, don't believe me on this. Contact your online dealer and tell them, say, hey, I have 1 ounce of gold. I would like the gold silver ratio equivalent. So give me 82 ounces of silver. Now, first, you're going to find out, well, what are we talking here? Are we talking, for instance, as I just used a base gold Britannia or gold American Eagle, or 1 ounce gold Canadian Maple? And then your next question you'll be told from the dealer is, well, what do you want in return? Do you want our cheapest ounce, or do you want the equivalent? And then you're going to find out that you won't get what you've been told you would get. You're not going to get 80. So many different variables come into account that it's kind of ridiculous. So you get in generic silver. Even if you had an ounce of gold, I doubt you would get the generic down there at spot price, a trade for trade. So it's something that's put out there to help promote and push, but it does not apply to the average individual whatsoever at all. It is somewhat of a reference, and I'd say for individuals in stacking and involved in picking up silver, heavy or small, you should ignore that. If you're into it, you should be into it for other reasons. I've done many videos on the positive side of silver, and I will finish this one off on that also, but it shouldn't be one of your main driving points that right now, blah, 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 blah. You want to focus on whether your budget can afford the silver in question. And two, you've done all your research into whether silver is going to be your main pickup. Not because the ratio right now is 1 to 80. You will not get 1 to 80. I know one individual that damn near, I think even in the current 80s, was when a trade inquired about a trade, was looking somewhere like 58 or something like that. And that was just 1 ounce and getting a lot cheaper. You have to take into account if they do purchase your ounce off you, you're going to be taking that at a loss below spot price. And then if you're picking up the absolute rock bottom silver, you're still going to be paying some type of premium for it. So the premiums come into account, as many have mentioned in the past, but it's just somewhat of a silver tongue lie when it's used to help push and promote. Like an individual's not going to pay attention and just think, hey ho, here's what I'm going to get for this right now, so let me go ahead and lock in on that. It's not a fact. It can be a driving and a push for some. Each individual uses the gold to silver ratio for their own personal benefit and understanding. So it'll be fantastic to hear in the comments how you view the gold to silver ratio and how you apply it. It's something I normally pay attention to. I do look to see what it is, but I look for the opposite. You know, if it's going down, which is what we all know, then it can be an opportunity to trade. But once again, that may not be on the table come time to cash out. So whoever knows, no one knows. But I think the gold to silver ratio, when used, when an individual is going to be stating that, hey, right now you can get so and so many ounces of silver for 1 ounce of gold, is being a little misleading, somewhat of a silver tongue lie that I'll bring up. So the next one I'm going to say is somewhat of a silver tongue lie to a degree, is when an individual would say, you know, silver has so many uses. So many uses. And as we look at the 10 ounce, 2 ounce Coke, so it has so many uses, and that's why, you know, the price will eventually come up at some point. Now, since I got into stacking, this has been a big thing that's been put out there. You know, it's inelastic, it can't be replaced. Silver's not just an industrial metal, it has so many uses and so many more to come. But as you and anybody else that's been involved in silver has seen, that hasn't had absolutely no effect whatsoever on the overall price of silver. If anything, it's done it worse, I would say. You know, you've had, you know, where we are, and we ain't the smartest guys in the room. You know, nobody that has millions upon millions that is into, you know, investing or stacking into gold or silver doesn't know the things that we already know. It's how I see it is, and it's a prime example. It's what anything could be made hot tomorrow, you know, and as long as the right crowd are more than willing to pump their money into it, it doesn't make a difference how important something is. You know, once upon a time, silver was the main source of money in the ancient and old times, and that's why it played such a important role. Then we got into this age where we are now more industrial and revolutionary and so forth, and who knows, we may be building spaceships out of silver at some point, you know, warp drives, but it's still not having an effect on the overall price of it. So you can say it, but, you know, you can say that the paper's manipulation is affecting its price. But then when you look at the industrial uses, you know, if Apple needs X, Y, and Z, and every component or electrical needs all of this silver within its means, why hasn't the price increased? Not to forget, on top of that, which I won't bring up in this video, how rare it is, as the same silver tongue lie may be also put out there. So you take those two into account, it's ultra rare. You know, we're going to be zero or no negative silver in only a matter of years. Then it has so many uses, yet the price is where it is. That's all down to the individual to either ask themselves why or look for what it is. What I've seen, and from everyday general work that I'm involved in, and just the mindset of people in general, is that, you know, there's going to be people that can invest in silver and gold, and there's going to be people that can't. You know, whether we see a massive explosion in spot price and we all gain, everybody watching this and involved in this, we all gain. I know people that, for the love of God, ain't going to be able to purchase gold or silver and couldn't really care about it. It's going to be something happening in the background. Even if it does hit mainstream news, who knows if they'll do that. Because we're invested in, and, you know, have so much interest in it, we pay 100% attention to it. There's others that just couldn't care. You know, it may not be on main headline news. It may just be something like, I know people that couldn't care less about the stock market crash, and people only pay attention when you tag something like Apple stocks crash. Outside of that, general stock market crashes people don't care about. So that could be the average Joe, the general guy that people refer to when we say if this goes up, the average person may not be able to afford it. Those individuals just ain't involved in gold or silver, so it's going to play absolutely no role. They're not going to be kicking themselves saying, if only I got involved when it was, $5 or something like that. It's just like Bitcoin when it went from nothing, dollars, pounds, to thousands upon thousands. It was just that one thing. Will it do it again? More than likely, but will as many people pay attention? Maybe not. So it only applies to a certain few. So I feel like with the tag of it having so many uses, the price not being affected goes to show that I would say individuals in charge can really control what becomes hot and what is not. And it's one of those things whereas it's just not seen as it's what it was once upon a time. We're in a new world nowadays. So I think attaching the old tag to it, whereas it was the one and only highest thing at the time, and the end be all end all, is not the case for it no more. If anything, silver's playing more of an important role today in the modern world than it ever has. It has such a low price tag, even with the paper manipulation attached to it. So an individual really needs to think about that, because I wouldn't be looking at these things and thinking that's going to also aid in it at a later date on it shooting through the roof. They could easily suppress the price of silver like they have, even without the paper manipulation. It could easily be shrugged off. All of those that are involved with it are going to stay involved with it. All of those that will potentially go on to pick it up will potentially go on to pick it up. But I don't think it's going to bring the new masses. It shows from the mindset, just from how everyone gravitated towards cryptos, and it took away a lot of the shine of metals in general. So I think it having so many uses and it being so rare is somewhat of a silver tongue lie. It did play a role in me getting involved in silver, but I would say for an individual getting into it, or maybe using it as a defense, I would say, look, with all of these pluses in its favor, in today's world, it's got the lowest value more than ever. It plays such a large role. So it's easily manipulated, and the people involved can easily keep these prices manipulated. Who knows when we get a crash what will happen from there, and whether it can hold its new high value. But I would say most definitely in terms of future and potential, gold I would put ahead of silver. Not to forget, a lot of people in silver that want to take advantage of the ratio change or a lower ratio do intend to get into gold. So it's not that silver is number one. Everybody knows gold is number one. It's the opportunities involved in silver and how you can pick it up now for a lot lower, and it offers the better opportunities. But each individual is going to say a different thing. So it'd be fantastic to hear your opinion on that once again in the comments. Now, another silver tongue lie I would say is, should we see, or when we do see the massive price explosion, gold's going to be way out of the reach for the average man. So silver's going to be the next best thing. Now, touching upon what I just mentioned there, again, the average man, that's to assume that the average man is going to drop everything he's got going on because his money's now falling through, the roof, and he needs to go out and get what he can get. Once again, I doubt that's going to be the case. Everybody who's anybody that wants to protect themselves and their future right now is invested in this or knows about it and will get invested in it. So it's not going to be a newfound surprise. These are all my own personal opinions here, that people are going to go run out and then say, hey, I can't get a hold of that, let me get a hold of this, and be paying the inflated prices. Also, I think a lot of people are doing themselves no favors when they mention that, like gold, the average man's not going to be able to afford gold. I absolutely agree, but the average man was never going to be able to afford gold. It's always going to be those individuals that have the wealth that it's not going to be a problem. It makes me chuckle when individuals even mention, my stack is, I don't know, like millionaire status, and it's so much, and it just makes me think, I don't think you've seen real wealth or people with real wealth. If you have an ounce of gold now because you purchased it at 1,000 and you can't believe someone will buy it off you for 10,000, it's just like, when I purchased my flat and didn't expect for it to go up in value. It's just one of those things. I wouldn't be limited in thinking that nobody's going to be able to afford it, because you wouldn't be able to afford it. As long as you've got it and there are people out there with wealth, it will be purchased regardless of the price of how it increases. So I wouldn't have that stop you from buying gold under the belief that nobody's going to be able to afford it when it increases in price. Hell no. There's people out there with insane wealth and, you know, healthy wealth and good wealth, and I'm below all of them. And these are the types of individuals that will purchase it when the time comes. You're not going to find your next door neighbor and, you know, Joe Blow down the road and everybody and their mother running out to come out and now see if they can throw their pennies at this, because there'll be diversions, you know, and false hopes, and people told that their investments or their money will be replaced and whatever. And I personally don't buy into the whole Mad Max, the world is burning theory. If that's the case, you can throw everything out the window and every man and their dog for themselves. So there'll be some type of structured disorder, but who knows how it will roll out and what it will be. But that's just where I am. So these are just a few of the silver tongue lies I wanted to bring up for the first video of the New Year's and see what individuals think. You know, these are things I got involved in, believing in the beginning, but not so much right now. I think 2019 is going to be a very important year when it comes to a lot of things that I haven't mentioned before. I've mentioned in a few videos that for me, I got involved in this, and come 2020, I wanted to reevaluate the stack. Now that's happened quite a lot, even prior to 2020. If anything, I won't be picking up more silver, and I'll be holding on to what I have, which is more than enough, and then moving forward from there. But I'll just be reevaluating and taking a look at what the scene is. We in the UK have Brexit coming up, which is going to play a big, massive role. The last time we had Brexit, it was a spike. So, you know, some people sold and bought back a lot cheaper. It may be something I do, you know, something I've been taking full advantage with in crypto land. So I would say this is going to be an interesting one, especially with Brexit playing a role, depending on the outcome. As long as we don't kick the can down the road and get an extension, which is not looking like, we'll either be in with rules and regulations and, you know, some type of agreements, or out with absolutely nothing. So for me, come March will be another defining point on how I'm going to approach it and how I see it. But it'll be fantastic to hear from you guys what you feel are some silver tongue lies, you know, things you may have got into silver believing, or your opinions on all the things I brought up and why you believe they're 100% fact and may not be so much of a silver tongue lie. So hate or love it, guys. It'd be fantastic to hear your thoughts and opinions on this matter here, and anything that you can add to it in the comments. So go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll catch you guys in the rebound.